At this point, you probably have some understanding of how your movement dysfunctions and your postural imbalances correlate with the pains and the injuries that you've had for the past few months, or that you may have been dealing with for the past few years, as you try and push your limits and really train hard and compete hard the way that you want to, or the way that you even used to. So you know that, but now it's like, okay, Steph, how do I actually improve my movement? How do I actually get rid of, iron out all of those postural issues and those movement dysfunctions? In this video, I'm going to give you a high level overview of how I coach my clients to improve their movement, and also how I think about movement from the standpoint of just optimizing what I'm doing. So whatever you are doing in the gym, whatever kinds of lifts, whatever kind of training you're doing, you can use these 8 movement checkpoints to optimize that and essentially give your body the chance to start ironing out all of those issues and basically heal on its own. And at the same time, because you're going to be becoming a better mover, you're also going to become a better athlete, and your performance is going to elevate as a result. So without further ado, I'll get into these 8 movement checkpoints. You can essentially go through each one as you're doing a movement. So let's say I'm in the gym, I'm hitting the squat. I'm like, okay, am I hitting number 1? Check. Am I hitting number 2? Check. Am I hitting number 3, 4, 5, all the way to 8? And you'll know that because you're paying attention to each one of these points, that you're optimizing your movement. Because remember, it's not a game of how perfect can you be in one set or one rep or one workout. It's a matter of how much better you can get in every rep, every set, every workout. So these points are going to allow you to get better at moving. And because you get better at moving, you're gonna eliminate all of that pain, all of that tightness, all of that injury. You're just gonna see it melt away over time, and you're gonna be a better performer, a better athlete in your field of play. So the first one, the most important one, I start here. Honestly, if I were to just give you one and just leave it at that, I could make a whole video on just this first point. Move by feel, not thought. What do I mean by that? I know that sounds a bit esoteric. Move by feel, not by thought. Basically what I mean is that when you're going through the process of optimizing your movement, there's obviously hundreds of muscles in our body, all these different joints, all these possibilities for our joints to be positioned, different ways that we can move, different balances of tension through us. So no coach, not the best biomechanics expert in the world, can ever inform you of exactly how to move. He can't instruct you how to position yourself perfectly in something even as simple as standing posture. Sure, they can guide you, but ultimately it's going to be up to you to tap into your internal faculties and start making those self corrections on your own. So it's really about tapping into your body's awareness and really making sure that you're paying attention to those different sensations of tightness, of pressure, of compression, decompression, of pain is a really important feedback signal. You want to lean into these sensations through your body as you're moving, and they will inform you of the right movement, the right adjustment to make based on whatever movement you're doing. And that's why it's so important to, for instance, make sure you're barefoot so that your feet can actually take that sensory information up from the ground to inform the rest of your body. So that's something, that's just an example of something that's really key, that's going to help you tap in to those proprioceptive abilities to a greater degree. So move by feel, not by thought. One more point on this before I move on is that you also want to move by feel and not by sight. Just write that in real quick. Oh, that's not how you spell sight. Sight, there you go. And what do I mean by this? So oftentimes as I'm starting to coach new clients, they'll come in and they'll start consuming the information that I give them about how to align their body and how to execute these foundational movement patterns that we have them doing. And I'll find them getting in a mirror and looking at the mirror the whole time that they're doing a movement. Well, in real life, you can't really do that. And more importantly, the visual system of the body is much slower than the sensory system of the body. Your body can basically feel a sensation, send that signal to your spinal cord, and then the spinal cord sends it back to the relevant areas to inform the proper movement. That happens much quicker than you trying to do that by looking visually. So make sure that you're always feeling in. I always like to coach clients, especially at first, to even as they get more advanced actually, to close their eyes as they're doing movements. Of course, if you're doing some crazy balance thing, then maybe keep the eyes open until you get a little bit more proficient at the movement. But just starting off, like even just simple presses and squats and lunges and all those kinds of exercises, real simple stuff, just closing the eyes, it'll really help you tap into this last part about not moving by sight. And that's going to be really key for, again, just boosting your proprioceptive abilities. And then not only in the gym and your training, but when you go out in the field, you go out on the court, then you're able to take that same proprioceptive ability and you're able to now make these micro adjustments, make these small little technical changes that are going to allow you to be more precise, whether you're kicking a soccer ball, you're shooting a basketball, dribbling, making a pass, threading the needle with that pass, whatever the case may be, you're going to have the ability to, because you're in your training, you're moving by feel and you're practicing this and really tapping into your internal faculties. So that's number one. Number two is to use eccentric isometric protocol. I just made a whole video on this, so go ahead and watch that if you haven't seen it. But basically, this is performing the eccentric phase of a movement, really slow, controlled, pausing at the bottom at the end range, which is, again, go watch this video, but the end range is going to be 90 degrees. If you lock in good spinal alignment, lock in good core engagement, you're going to find that that pause, that end range is going to happen at about at 90 degrees for your joint angles. Anyways, go watch that video again, really good one, highly recommend. Maybe I'll put it in the description. But anyways, you do that slow eccentric, pause at the bottom, and then you explode up through the concentric, still staying in a very controlled state as you're doing this. So basically, what you're doing is you're allowing your body the chance to self-adjust. Why? Because when your muscles are in that stretched position, you're actually going to be sending a ton of feedback to the nervous system about the positioning of your joints, about things like tension, pressure, compression, decompression. All those things are going to be signaled to your nervous system, and then again, your nervous system will be able to, in feedback loop style, send those signals back to your muscles, to the operating areas, and inform them on how to move properly based on the task, to do it in the most efficient way. So that's why eccentric isos are so important. And again, I can't stress enough, this other video I made is really good. It's going to just make sure that you have a good understanding of why I use eccentric isometrics when I'm programming for all my clients, and how essentially it can help you, one, melt away your pain, tightness, and injury, and two, help you actually advance your athletic capabilities in terms of strength, explosive power, speed, and then also help you put on more muscle mass. So that's number 2 is eccentric isos. Number 3, which is going to be important for the proper execution of eccentric isos, is to create full body tension. What do I mean by this? Well, you want to make sure that you're creating tension throughout the whole chain of your body, from your feet to your hands to even, yes, your face. You'll see me in some exercise videos where I'm not even lifting a heavy weight and I'm just like grimacing through my face because I'm feeling those fascial connections, those, whether it's fascia or whatever else, I'm just feeling those connections all through my chain, and that's what's going to help me move more optimally. And that's also what's going to dictate what 90-degree angles are, going back to the eccentric isometric point. So when you hold that full body tension, there's no way that you can go beyond those 90-degree angles unless something collapses, unless something gives. Those 90-degree angles are the strongest positions. I've seen this time and time again. I've experimented time and time again. Trust me, I've done all the full range of motion strengthening stuff. I've done all the partial stuff. This is the best for training the strongest ranges of motion in your body, and thus you actually gain access to more mobility. Funny enough, it's so crazy. I train people with this style and they find that they actually gain more mobility, more flexibility throughout their whole chain without doing any stretching. It's really crazy, and it's because the stretch is optimized when you think about these principles that I'm telling you, and you just do regular fundamental patterns, and that's really it. So on every movement, no matter how big or small, you want to make sure you're maximally engaging the core. That's going to be the bridge between your upper and lower body. And then, for instance, even in something like a pull-up, where your feet are off the ground, you still want to maximally dorsiflex the ankles, meaning the toes will come up towards the shin. And that way you're, again, creating these full lines of tension all the way from the foot. And you're going to see, just try this out on your own, you're going to see that it actually improves your upper body mechanics. The dorsiflexion is going to connect to a bigger chest, and keeping that and having you giving you the ability to get that sternum up, and it's going to allow you to get into your lats a lot better. So just try that out and you'll see exactly what I mean. Create that full body tension through the hands, the feet. I'll go into the hands and feet a little bit more throughout this video. But just try that out and you'll see how much it improves your mechanics, even if you're not working your feet or your lower legs. If you're just working your upper body, you'll see how thinking about that full body tension will improve your mechanics, just doing that alone, just dorsiflexing, just thinking about tensing up those lower leg muscles or whatever the case may be. So fourth step, or checkpoint. This one is going to seem really basic, but posture, again, goes hand in hand with eccentric isos. All of these go hand in hand with each other, honestly, but posture is super key. So when I think about posture, I don't just think, are my shoulders back and is my head up, is my neck straight? I'm thinking about posture through every single joint. We have hundreds of joints in our body. It's basically just the space between each and every bone where movement is able to happen. And essentially, you want to create a tiny little bit of space in between each of those junctions. And that's what's going to allow for that smooth interaction between your bones. And a lot of times what I find is that when people have certain issues, they'll have these bones that are basically not interacting well with each other and essentially jamming into each other. And that's not good for proper movement. And that's a recipe for grinding your joints, your cartilage down. You'll see that a lot in the knee because the muscles aren't activating properly. They're not really doing their job to support the bones and create that nice little space in between each of the joints. Then everything is just grinding and not really like moving smoothly on itself. So really make sure you think about posture. Now, when it comes to posture, obviously it's hard to think about every single joint. I really like the cue of elongating the spine. So just making sure you have a nice spine and just thinking about every single vertebrae. This is something that you could practice maybe even while you're sitting here right now. Just literally go start at your tailbone and go up a vertebrae as you bring awareness to the previous vertebrae. So start at your tailbone, just literally like feel that. Bring yourself inside that tailbone, go up to the next vertebrae. Okay, I feel that. Go up to the next vertebrae. Okay, feel that. And then you go all the way up to your cervical spine, and you'll find that you can just fix your posture like crazy just by doing that. And it's because awareness is key. But anyways, posture, elongate your spine, think tall head and neck, big chest, nice spaced out shoulders in every single one of your lifts, anything that you do. And I made a whole video on this step-by-step posture breakdown, so go watch that. I'll hopefully remember to link that in the description as well. And it'll give you a better understanding about what I mean when it comes to posture. We take a little green juice break. All right, number 5. Even weight distribution. This one sounds really basic, but can be really helpful. Oftentimes what I find is that people are shifting their weight a ton on one side or the other. So many times I see just by cueing them like, hey, like just feel even on both sides of your legs, and then their mechanics automatically improve. Their impingement that they had in their hip when squatting just melts away, like literally within a couple reps of thinking about being even through both legs. And just when you're standing, just think about being nice and even both sides. Again, like some people will kind of do one of these and just kind of like put all their weight on one leg, and that's not a hugely bad thing, but doing it chronically over time without ever like accessing the other side of things in terms of that range of motion that you're using, that can lead to problems down the line. So just make sure even weight distribution, even when you're doing something like a bench press, think even on both sides. That's really important because that's just going to help you be more efficient as you're lifting that weight. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that one. Now number 6, straight hands and feet. I also made a video on this in the one balance challenge exercise you'll have never done, and also in the posture step-by-step posture breakdown video that I just told you about as well. So go on my page, just take a look at those. You'll understand what straight hands and feet are. Basically, when your hands and feet, and this is when your hands are on the ground, that is, or your feet are on the ground. Even actually if your feet are up in the air, you're also going to want to make sure that they're straight. I'll show you guys some videos, make more videos on that in the future, but basically this is straight with my hands. A lot of people would think this is straight. This is actually a little bit turned out. You want to look at the top of your hand right here to see what straight is. And it's actually going to be a little bit inwards, and that's going to increase the surface area that you can create this external torque with, and it's going to help you get into your lats and that bigger musculature in your torso a little bit better. Same thing with your feet. You want to make sure that they're actually a little bit pigeon-toed when you're doing a lot of gym work. any lower body work. You want to make sure they're a little bit pigeon-toed, reason being that the ankle bones are going to dictate what straight is, and then there's going to be a little, the forefeet come inwards a little bit, so you want to make sure that you're accounting for that, because when they're actually straight, because the forefeet are coming in, they'll now look pigeon-toed. So that's number 6. Number 7, also going to be related to this one, is going to be activating hands and feet. And so in whatever you're doing, activating the hands and feet, really making sure that you're gripping the ground, really making sure that you're gripping the implement that you're using. That is going to send activation up the chain of your body into your core to help you activate that better. So again, there's lines of connection all throughout your body because of how fascia wraps around our whole chain like a spider web. And so by taking advantage of things like activating your hands and your feet, you can actually help yourself connect through those tension, through those lines of tension, through those lines of fascia, and make your body one unit instead of all these fragmented pieces. So won't spend too much time on that. That's related to point number 6. And then the last point, also sort of related to these ones, is just to go barefoot. I highly recommend going straight up barefoot. Now, if you're not a serial killer like me, you might not want to go totally barefoot in your public gym, but I don't care. Unless anybody tells me like, hey sir, you got to put your shoes on, like I'll just keep my shoes off. And honestly, it's way better because you can have socks on, that's totally fine, but even that small layer of fabric in between your feet and the ground is going to slightly disrupt the sensory information I found. Now, so I don't strictly do completely barefoot. I mean, you'll see me with socks on sometimes. You'll see me with shoes on sometimes. I have shoes on right now. But it's just making sure to give yourself the opportunity to really feel the ground in its entirety. And again, that's going to allow your feet to collect all this sensory rich information from the ground and how your feet are interacting with the ground to inform the rest of your chain on how to align itself and how to initiate movement. So that one's really, really key, guys. And really, all of these go hand in hand. So keep these in mind as you're lifting, as you're doing any of your gym work through the foundational patterns. So vertical push and pull, horizontal push and pull, squat, lunge, all that stuff. Just apply these main checkpoints. See, literally, like if I'm doing that squat, okay, am I moving by feel? Okay, yeah, now I am. Am I moving? Am I doing eccentric isometric protocol? Okay, yeah. Am I creating full body tension? Yeah, got that now. All right, posture, even weight distribution, straight hands, feet, active hands, feet, and then obviously number 8, you can't really change anything about that if you're in the movement already, but you want to be barefoot. So with that said, guys, this is it for the video. The 8 movement checkpoints. These will allow you to optimize your movement and really step into being the athletic beast that doesn't have all this pain and nagging injuries that you probably have right now. So with that said, if you want my specific help actually implementing all of these things so that I can coach you, have my good eyes on you as you're sending me videos for feedback and all that, so that we can make adjustments and really fine tune your movement. If you want help with all that, just book a call down below and we'll schedule something in and get you rolling. So if that sounds good, just book a call down below and I'll see you in the next one.